The stars are the landmarks of time. They not only tell the hours, but the ages. In part 1, we stepped outside the modern view of time. We stopped looking at history as a straight line, and we began to see it the way the ancient world often saw it, as a cycle, a wheel, a spiral, a living rhythm written in the heavens. We explored the great year, the long processional cycle tied to the Earth's slow wobble, and the rising and fall of the cosmic ages. And now, in part 2, we zoom in on the face of the cosmic clock, the Zodiac, not as a personality game, not as a meme about your ex being a Pisces, but as an ancient symbolic system, a language of archetypes, a way of describing the different energies moving through the individual soul, and through civilization itself. Welcome back to the third narrative. The Zodiac is usually treated as entertainment. 12 signs, 12 personality types, a few vague traits, and maybe a horoscope you see scrolling through social media. But that is not how the ancient world saw it. To them, the Zodiac was not just a calendar. It was a symbolic map of reality. 12 ways the cosmic energy could express itself through time, nature, personality, mythology, and civilization. Each sign carried a quality, a rhythm, a strength, a shadow. And just like we saw with the chakras, the point is not that one sign is good and another is bad. Each sign holds a power, and every power can be expressed in a higher form or a distorted form. That is what makes the Zodiac useful for the third narrative. It gives us a symbolic language for reading the ages. Because the same archetypes that appear in individuals can also appear in civilizations. So before we apply the Zodiac to history, Lascaux, and the Great Year, we need to understand the signs themselves. Aries is the first sign of the Zodiac, a fire sign ruled by Mars. This is the spark, the beginning, the warrior, the force that charges forward before the path is clear. Aries' energy is bold, direct, passionate, and initiating. It is the energy of action, courage, and conflict. A person with strong Aries energy is often a leader, a pioneer, someone willing to move first. But when distorted, the same fire becomes impulsive, reckless, and aggressive, unable to wait, unable to listen, unable to restrain themselves. Aries is the divine spark of beginning. But if that spark is not disciplined, it becomes wildfire. Taurus is an earth sign, ruled by Venus. This is the energy of the body, the land, the temple, the garden. Taurus is stable, grounded, patient, sensual, and deeply connected to the physical world. It builds slowly. It values beauty. It protects what it loves. It seeks peace, comfort, fertility, and abundance. But when distorted, Taurus becomes stubborn, possessive, and materialistic. Too attached to comfort, too resistant to change. The higher Taurus builds the garden. The distorted Taurus worships the golden calf inside it. This is the energy of stability, beauty, and earthly rewards. Gemini is an air sign ruled by Mercury. This is the energy of thought, speech, curiosity, and exchange. Gemini asks questions. It connects ideas. It moves quickly. It learns, speaks, adapts, and translates. It is the messenger energy, the bridge between one mind and another. At its best, Gemini is brilliant, flexible, witty, and alive with possibility. But when distorted, it becomes scattered, restless, shallow, double-minded, too quick to speak and too impatient to listen. Gemini is the energy of words, ideas, and movement. It is the mind in motion. Cancer is a water sign ruled by the moon. This is the energy of feeling, memory, family, home, and protection. Cancer is the inner world, the sacred enclosure, the shell, the womb, the place where life is nurtured before it can face the world. At its best, Cancer is loving, intuitive, loyal, and protective. It feels deeply, it remembers, it shelters. But when distorted, it becomes clingy, fearful, overprotective, trapped in the past, unable to release what must be released. Cancer is the energy of emotional memory, the guardian of the home and the hidden heart. Leo is a fire sign, ruled by the sun. This is the energy of radiance, courage, kingship, heart, and creative expression. Leo does not merely exist, it shines. It wants to be seen, not out of vanity alone, but because its gift is presence. At its best, Leo uplifts, it creates, it leads with warmth, it gives others permission to shine. But when distorted, Leo becomes pride, ego, performance, the need to be worshipped instead of the desire to serve. The higher Leo is the noble king. The distorted Leo is the tyrant demanding applause. This is the energy of solar identity, courage, and the heart made visible. Virgo is an earth sign, ruled by Mercury. But this is not Mercury as quick speech. This is Mercury as analysis, order, refinement, and service. Virgo sees the details others miss. It studies, it repairs, it purifies. It takes the chaos of life and turns it into structure. At its best, Virgo is humble, precise, healing, and devoted. It understands that sacredness is not only found in grand visions, but in daily discipline. But when distorted, Virgo becomes anxious, critical, a perfectionist, obsessed with flaws, unable to rest because nothing is ever clean enough, pure enough, or complete enough. Virgo is the energy of refinement, service, and sacred order. Libra is an air sign ruled by Venus. This is the energy of balance, harmony, beauty, justice, and relationships. Libra wants the scales to be even. It seeks fairness. It understands proportion. It brings grace to conflict and symmetry to chaos. At its best, Libra is diplomatic, artistic, thoughtful, and just. It knows that truth must be held in balance. But when distorted, Libra becomes indecisive, people-pleasing, afraid of conflict, more concerned with appearance than truth. The higher Libra seeks justice. The distorted Libra seeks approval. This is the energy of equilibrium, beauty, and divine symmetry. Scorpio is a water sign, traditionally ruled by Mars, but in modern astrology associated with Pluto. This is the energy of depth, mystery, death, rebirth, power, and transformation. Scorpio does not stay on the surface. It descends. It searches the hidden places. It wants to know what is buried, what is forbidden, what is real beneath the mask. At its lower expression, Scorpio is the scorpion, defensive, secretive, possessive, venomous when wounded. But in its higher expression, Scorpio becomes the eagle, vision, power, and mastery over the lower self. And in its deepest form, it becomes the phoenix, the one who dies, burns, and rises transformed. This is the energy of soul-level evolution, the power to descend into darkness and return with wisdom. Sagittarius is a fire sign, ruled by Jupiter. This is the energy of the seeker, the philosopher, the traveler, the archer aiming beyond the visible horizon. Sagittarius wants truth. Not small truth, not safe truth, big truth, cosmic truth, the kind of truth that changes the direction of your life. At its best, Sagittarius is adventurous, optimistic, wise, and free. It searches for meaning. It follows the arrow. It looks beyond the tribe, beyond the border, beyond the known world. But when distorted, Sagittarius becomes restless, careless, dogmatic, so convinced it has found the truth that it stops learning. This is the energy of the quest, the hunter of meaning, the arrow pointed toward the heavens. Capricorn is an earth sign, ruled by Saturn. This is the energy of structure, time, discipline, responsibility, and mastery. Capricorns climb slowly, patiently, and deliberately. It understands that nothing lasting is built without sacrifice. At its best, Capricorn is responsible, enduring, wise, and capable of building what survives. It is the architect, the mountain climber, the keeper of law and structure. But when distorted, Capricorn becomes cold, controlling, overworked, obsessed with status, hierarchy, and power. The higher Capricorn builds civilizations. The distorted Capricorn becomes the prison of civilization. This is the energy of mastery, patience, and long-term growth. Aquarius is an air sign, traditionally ruled by Saturn, but in modern astrology associated with Uranus. This is the energy of disruption, innovation, vision, humanity, and the future. Aquarius stands outside the system, so it can see the system. It questions the old order. It breaks patterns. It brings new knowledge, new technologies, new social forms, and new ways of thinking. At its best, Aquarius is visionary, inventive, humanitarian, and liberating. It carries water, the symbol of knowledge, spirit, and renewal, and pours it out for humanity. But when distorted, Aquarius becomes detached, abstract, rebellious for the sake of rebellion, technological without a soul, humanitarian in theory, but disconnected from actual human beings. That is the danger of Aquarius. It can liberate, or it can mechanize. It can awaken humanity, or it could turn humanity into data. Pisces is a water sign, traditionally ruled by Jupiter, but in modern astrology associated with Neptune. This is the final sign of the Zodiac, the ocean at the end of the cycle. Pisces is mystical, spiritual, imaginative, empathic, and dissolving. It feels the unity beneath separation. It dreams, it prays, it sacrifices, and it remembers the soul. At its best, Pisces is compassion, faith, imagination, and divine longing. It is the mystic, the martyr, the dreamer, the saint. But when distorted, Pisces becomes illusion, escapism, confusion, victimhood, a desire to dissolve without becoming whole. Pisces is the energy of oneness, soul memory, and the divine imagination, the last sign before the wheel begins again. Now, why did we go through all 12 signs? Because these archetypes do not only describe individuals, they can also describe ages. And this brings us back to the great year. Just as the ordinary year is divided into 12 months, the great year is divided into 12 astrological ages. Each age lasts around 2,160 years. Each age corresponds to one zodiac sign. And through the third narrative lens, each age filters civilization through that sign's archetype, not in a mechanical way, but as a symbolic climate, a spiritual weather pattern, an atmosphere that shapes what cultures emphasize, what symbols become sacred, and what forms of religion rise to the surface. Think of it this way: a Pisces person may be spiritual, sacrificial, mystical, and imaginative. So an age of Pisces would be marked by faith, martyrdom, salvation, mysticism, and collective religion. An Aquarius person may be visionary, rebellious, technological, and humanitarian. So an age of Aquarius would be expected to bring innovation, upheaval, technological transformation, and new collective structures. That is the key. The signs are not only personality types, they are civilizational archetypes. And once you understand that, history starts to look different. Because when we look backward through the ages, we find something strange. The symbols of the age keep appearing in the religions of the age. Now, here's the idea I want to introduce. The sun has always been worshipped, but it has not always worn the same mask. The sun is the visible symbol of divine light, life, power, order, and resurrection. But as the precessional cycle moves backward through the zodiac, the symbolic form of the sun changes. The same divine light appears clothed in a different archetype. In one age, the bull. In another, the ram. In another, the fish. And now, the water bear. This is what I call the solar archetype theory. The sun remains the sun, but the mythology surrounding it changes with the ages. That does not mean every religion is just astrology. Religions are very complex. They are history, morality, revelation, myth, symbols, all woven together. But it does mean the heavens may have produced the symbolic language through which entire civilizations understood the divine. So let's look at the pattern. The Age of Taurus is traditionally placed around 4,320 to 2,160 BCE. This is the age of the bull. And what do we find across the ancient world? Bull symbolism everywhere. In Egypt, the Apis bull was revered as a sacred animal connected with divine power, kingship, fertility, and the god Phut, later also tied to Osiris. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, the bull of heaven descends as a terrifying divine force. In the Canaanite world, bull imagery appears around deities like Baal, a storm and fertility god associated with power, kingship, and the forces of nature. And in the biblical tradition, we find the golden calf, the image of the bull or young ox, as an object of forbidden worship. The bull was not just livestock. It was strength, fertility, power, abundance, the force of the earth made sacred. So during the Age of Taurus, the divine is repeatedly imagined through the bull. Not everywhere in the same way, not with one unified theology, but as a reoccurring archetype. The bull becomes the mask of sacred order. Then the sky shifts, and the symbols change with it. The Age of Aries is traditionally placed around 2160 BCE, to the beginning of the Christian era. This is the age of the ram. The bull gives way to the ram, and suddenly, the symbolic world changes. We enter a world of sacrificial lambs, shepherd kings, warrior gods, horns, mountain altars, blood rites. And one of the clearest symbolic turning points appears in Exodus 32. Moses goes up to Mount Sinai. The people grow impatient, and they build a golden calf.
And he received them at their hand, and fashioned it with a graving tool, after he had made it a molten calf.
When Moses returns, he destroys it.
And he took the calf which they had made, and burned it in the fire, and ground it to powder, and strawed it upon the water, and made the children of Israel drink of it.
On the surface, this is a story about idolatry, and it is. But through the lens of the great year, it may also preserve something deeper: the rejection of the old bull age. The calf belongs to Taurus. Moses stands at the threshold of Aries. The old symbol is shattered. A new age begins. This does not replace the biblical meaning, but it adds another layer. Then we see the ram appear again in Genesis 22. Abraham is about to sacrifice Isaac.
Take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of.
But at the last moment, a ram appears, caught by its horn in a thicket.
And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram, and offered him up for a burnt offering in the stead of his son.
The ram becomes a substitute. The son is spared, the sacrifice changes form, and in Exodus 12, the lamb becomes central to the Passover.
Your lamb shall be without blemish. And they shall take of the blood, and strike it on the two side posts, and on the upper doorpost of the houses.
This is Aries symbolism everywhere: the ram, the lamb, the sacrifice, the blood, the passage from death to life. Even Michelangelo's famous Moses appears with horns. The standard explanation is that this came from a translation issue, a Hebrew word connected to rays of light, also being rendered as horns. That may be historically correct, but symbolically, the image still fits the age. Moses, the lawgiver of the ram age, crowned with horns. Again, I'm not saying this proves astrology controlled the Bible. I'm saying the symbols line up in a way that deserves attention. The bull is rejected, the ram is enthroned, and the sun takes on a new mask. Then the precessional cycle moves again. Aries gives way to Pisces. The ram gives way to the fish. And at the beginning of this age, Christianity emerges. This is where the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Jesus calls his disciples fishers of men. In Mark 1, verse 17, he says,
Come ye after me, and I will make you to become fishers of men.
His first disciples include fishermen: Peter, Andrew, James, and John. His miracles are saturated with fish imagery. In Luke 5, the net fills with so many fish they begin to break.
And when they had this done, they enclosed a great multitude of fishes, and their net brake.
In Matthew 14, the crowd is fed with loaves and fish.
We have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish.
The fish becomes a symbol of spiritual harvest. Then the ichthys, the Jesus fish, becomes one of the most recognizable symbols of early Christianity. The Greek word for fish becomes tied to the identity of Christ, and the religion of the Piscean age becomes a religion of faith, sacrifice, martyrdom, compassion, mysticism, and salvation. Exactly the themes Pisces carries in the symbolic system. Now again, this does not mean Christianity is just Pisces. That would flatten something sacred into a slogan, which I'm not here to do. But it does suggest that the symbols of the age shape the religious imagination of the age. In Taurus, the bull. In Aries, the ram. In Pisces, the fish. The same sun, but different mask, different age, different mythology. And now we come to the transition that matters most for us, the Age of Aquarius, the water bearer. There is a debate about exactly when the Age of Aquarius begins. Some say it already has. Some say we are still in transition. Others place it centuries away. But spiritually and symbolically, something is clearly shifting. The Piscean world of centralized religion, faith, sacrifice, and institutional belief is breaking away. And something Aquarian is rising. Technology, networks, data, artificial intelligence, decentralized knowledge, humanitarian language, rebellion against old systems, the collapse of inherited authority, the dream of a new humanity. This is all Aquarius. But Aquarius is not automatically good. This is important. The water bearer can bring knowledge, renewal, liberation, a pouring out of wisdom. But distorted Aquarius can become cold, mechanical, detached, technocratic. A future where humanity is managed in the name of humanity. A world where the water of knowledge becomes a stream of data. This is why Luke 22, verse 10 becomes so interesting. Jesus tells his disciples,
Behold, when ye are entered into the city, there shall a man meet you, bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him into the house where he entereth in.
On the surface, this is a practical instruction, a sign to locate a room. But symbolically, it is difficult not to notice the image. A man carrying water, a house. Follow him into the place prepared. I'm not saying Luke was secretly writing a horoscope, but through the symbolic language of the ages, the image is powerful. The water bearer appears, and the disciples are told to follow him into the house of Aquarius, the next house, the next age, the next room in the cosmic story. And when we look around, whether or not you believe the Age of Aquarius has formally begun, its themes are everywhere. Technology is taking over. Knowledge is exploding. Old systems are losing legitimacy. People are waking up, but also becoming more disconnected, more digitized, more managed, more overstimulated, more abstracted from nature, body, family, and God. That is the Aquarian crossroads. Liberation or control. Awakening or simulation. Knowledge poured out freely or data harvested endlessly. And later in the series, we're going to return to this turning of the age, because the battle for Aquarius may be the battle for the future of humanity. So now we can see the pattern. In Taurus, the bull. In Aries, the ram. In Pisces, the fish. And in Aquarius, the water bearer. The same celestial sun, dressed in different mythologies depending on the sky. This is why religions across time can look so different, yet feel strangely connected. They are not necessarily opposing truths. They may be chapters in the same cosmic book, different ages, but the same underlying structure. The sun moves through the great year. Civilizations receive the archetype, and humanity builds religion, myth, rituals, and identity around the symbol of the age. That is the theory. And now we can apply it to the oldest symbolic art we have been studying, Lascaux. Now let's take everything we've discussed and apply it to the Lascaux cave paintings. I want to be very clear. What I'm about to say is speculation. This is a theory. Lascaux is difficult to date with absolute precision. Different researchers and different methods place the cave's use and artwork in slightly different ranges. The mainstream view places Lascaux deep in the Upper Paleolithic era, tens of thousands of years before the rise of recorded civilization. Most people see the paintings as animal art, hunting symbolism, ritual imagery, or shamanic expression. But throughout this series, we have been asking a different question. What if Lascaux is more than art? What if it is memory? What if the Cro-Magnons were not merely painting animals, but encoding the sky? And if they were encoding the sky, then we should ask one more question. Were they also encoding the age? If the sun takes on the symbolic animal of the Zodiac age, then what would we expect to find in the age before the bull? If my dating is correct, the Lascaux paintings may belong to the age of Sagittarius, the archer, the centaur, the horse. And what do we find all over Lascaux? Horses. Not one, not two, but many. The horse is one of the dominant images of the cave, and that matters because if the Cro-Magnons were working with the same solar archetype system later civilizations inherited, then the horse may not have been merely an animal. It may have been the solar symbol of the age, the sun of Sagittarius. One of the most striking images at Lascaux shows animals moving toward a massive bull. But above them all is the horse. It's higher and set apart, placed in a position that demands attention. Why? If these were random hunting scenes, why does the horse hold that place? Why does it appear again and again in positions connected not only with animal life, but with celestial movement? This is where the theory becomes interesting. Chantal Jeggs-Walkowicz argued that Lascaux was not simply a painted cave, but a sky map. Her interpretations are debated and are not settled mainstream fact, but they fit the pattern we have been tracing. The bull can be read as Taurus. The dots around it may point toward Pleiades and Orion. Other figures may align with seasonal positions of the sun and stars. And the horse, especially the falling horse and the standing horse, becomes central. In episode 5, we discussed the falling horse. This strange upside-down horse appears connected in Jeggs-Walkowicz's reading to the winter solstice, the darkest point, the death of the sun. Then above it, another horse appears upright, associated with the return toward spring, the movement back toward the light. In symbolic terms, the falling horse marks descent. The standing horse marks return, the death and rebirth of the sun. And if that is right, then the horse is not just part of the animal world. It is tracking the solar journey. It is marking the movement of light through time. Now, let's put the pieces together. The Great Year tells us that each age carries a zodiacal archetype. The solar archetype theory suggests that the sun takes on the symbolic form of that age. Later ages show this pattern clearly. The bull in Taurus, the ram in Aries, the fish in Pisces, and the water bear in Aquarius. So if Lascaux belongs to the age of Sagittarius, then we would expect the solar symbol of that age to be the horse, the archer, or the centaur. And in Lascaux, the horse is everywhere. But more importantly, the horse appears connected to the movement of the sun. That is the key. It's not just that there are horses. Horses were common Ice Age animals. That alone proves nothing. The important point is where and how the horses appear. The horse above the herd. The falling horse at the winter turning point. The standing horse tied to the return of light. The horse is solar motion. If the other animals are constellations, but the horse marks the sun's path, then the horse becomes something more. The solar archetype of the age, the sun god of Sagittarius. That is my theory. And if it is correct, then Lascaux is not only a cave of paintings, it is a timestamp, a sacred record of the age in which it was made. So now the question becomes unavoidable. Did the Cro-Magnons understand the Great Year? Did they understand precession? Did they know that the heavens move through the ages? This is where the third narrative steps outside the comfortable boundary. The second narrative says these were Ice Age artists. Brilliant, yes. Symbolic, yes. But not astronomer priests preserving a cosmic calendar. The third narrative asks, what if they were exactly that? What if Lascaux is one of the oldest surviving pieces of an ancient astronomical religion? What if the Cro-Magnons were not inventing random animal symbols, but preserving a zodiacal system that later civilizations would inherit? That would explain why the pattern appears again and again. Each age is a symbol. Each symbol is a timestamp. So what does this all mean? The Zodiac may not have begun as a personality system. It may have been a code, a cosmic fingerprint left across human history, a way of tracking not only the year, but the ages, a way of connecting heaven, earth, civilizations, and the soul. From the Cro-Magnons in the caves of Lascaux, to the architects of Egypt and Sumer, to the priests of the ancient world, to the biblical symbols that shaped the West, the same star map keeps returning. The sun changes its mythic form with every age, but the deeper truth remains. The heavens were not background, they were a blueprint. The stars did not merely decorate the night, they ordered time. They gave civilizations their symbols. And maybe they preserved a memory of something older than civilization itself. A lost science of time. A sacred calendar carried forward by those who knew that if the world fell, the sky would remain. And if the sky remained, the knowledge could be recovered. And those same civilizations did not only watch the heavens, they built on earth to mirror it. Pyramids, megaliths, stone circles, temples, structures aligned to solstices and equinoxes, monuments shaped by number, proportion, and geometry. Not just tombs or temples, but technologies of meaning. If the heavens held the blueprint, then Earth became the laboratory. And that is where we go next. Into sacred geometry, into the architecture of the gods. Because maybe the ancients were not only honoring the sky, maybe they were trying to harness it. I'll see you in the next episode.